Hey, everybody, welcome to KISS.
Keep it simple, sister.
Hey, Diana.
Hi, Samantha. How's it going?
It's going great. And we are going to have a fabulous time today talking about channeling.
That's exciting. And we are finally back for those of you who have missed us, right? This is our first one that we've recorded
Mhm.
since you got back from New Zealand and since I got off the crazy train that's been going on around here.
The crazy train. I have
The
a little
crazy,
bit of,
I mean, just like it's not even just, it's not crazy. It's just been like one thing after the other, after the other, after. So I guess it has been crazy.
it's been cool and it's been scary and it's been, yeah,
Yeah.
you've been all over the place. Yeah,
Yep. But I'm back.
but you're here. Um,
Right.
and if you guys been following the podcast, then to you it's seamless, but for us, it's like getting back in the swing of things. So we're a little rusty, a little bit rusty.
No, we'll be fine.
A little bit. Okay.
Everything's always working out for us. We'll be fine.
Well, so welcome to the KISS podcast. And this is where Diana and I share the tips, tricks, techniques, and products that we have utilized over the years, things that we've come to value, and we want to share with everyone because we find that these things keep us elevated, help us to recover more quickly from some of the weirdness that we have happen in our lives, right?
Yeah.
And so that's it's all about, feeling great by feeling better. Just these little minute changes that you can make that make a huge difference. And some of them are big, but
Yeah.
yeah, that pretty much sums it up. So
Got it.
today, we've chosen the topic of channeling for a lot of different reasons because there's so many things that we could talk about, and we kind of wrap with each other going, what's going to be most pertinent to people right now? And I think this is part of a bigger picture,
Yeah.
but I think that the idea of the channeling is really important. So,
So can I share kind of where it came from my end?
yes, please.
Um, so I hope if you've been watching us, you know that Samantha has been involved in the metaphysical realm, the woo-woo land, all of that for much, much longer than I have. But I have this, it's so fucking interesting attitude. And I want to know about things, like I ask her about a million questions, whatever. And I have a few other friends that are also kind of part of that world, and it's really funny because each of us is exploring in a slightly different direction. So we're
Mhm.
bringing kind of bits and pieces of information, or I'm bringing bits and pieces of information and trying to kind of consolidate it all to figure out what the what. So the channeling thing, like I was used to Samantha and her benevolent beings who, and we'll talk about the different kinds of channelings and she can explain like what that is. So I
Mhm.
experienced some channeling with Samantha, but then these other people that I've been working with and talking with, they're having different experiences. And I was wondering, is that channeling? What I mean, like, what is channeling? Is
Mhm.
there just one way to do it? Are there 15 ways to do it? I don't know. So that's what we were kind of talking about. And so we're going to try and share that with you. And I'm going to try and interject some of the epiphanies that I've had about channeling along the way.
I love that. That's beautiful. Okay. So channeling in essence is information, inspiration coming through um, coming through your consciousness in one way, shape, form, or another. Um, so first off, you don't have to be trained to do it because you're doing it regardless. You're doing it without realizing you're doing it. On the very basic level, um, you could say it goes down even to this. You could say you're channeling when you have that nudge, when you have that feeling, that gut feeling. That right there is information coming from without, not within, but from without, like from some greater source, whatever. Um,
Something's telling you something, and then you choose whether or not to listen to it, whether or not to follow it, right?
exactly, exactly. And so then you can take a step up from that and say, well, musicians channel, artists, I guess let's do the whole umbrella artists, whether you're a musician, or you paint or you dance.
You're
When,
right.
yeah, when you're in that flow, you recognize the flow. The information comes so easily. You're in that channeled state where you're open and receptive. And if if I were to look at you like so really cool thing. I used to go to the Unity Church, the local Unity Church, and we had this one minister that was he was really fascinating because my girlfriend and I, who she also was an intuitive, and we would sit there and just watch him. And I wonder if he just looked at us going, "Stop looking at me that way." But we would sit there and just kind of look at him with unfocused eyes because we could see when he was on and when he was off. We could see this light coming from like, the top, like it was coming down into his crown chakra, down into his body. And the moment we saw the light, we knew, oh my God, this is going to be good because the
Uh-huh.
information would just flow from him.
Right.
So it's that kind of thing when you feel that flow and everything's just happening. You're in this,
In the
like,
zone is what people, like
I like that.
athletes say, well, I'm in the zone,
Hmm.
or anybody who's creative, when you're in the zone,
Yep.
when it's coming through you and it's coming out. I don't know whether it's painting or coloring or designing or writing or whatever.
Yep.
That's your zone. And everybody kind of has their own different zones. I know some people that love to bake,
Oh
they're
yeah.
in the zone when they're baking. Like it's just
Hmm.
whatever makes you feel, and I don't want to say close to God, but it kind of is like close to God. So
Well,
over
you're
the
open and
years,
connected to the all, so yeah.
exactly. And over the years, I was raised a Catholic. Both my parents were Catholic. And then I got mad at the Catholic people, not Catholic people. I got mad at God. I got mad at the Catholic religion. So
Hmm.
I kind of turned away from that. But I never really turned away from God. But I thought it was kind of interesting that everybody kind of has their own God.
Hmm.
So we're going to talk about that in another in another podcast.
Hmm.
But you can call it God, you can call it higher spirit, your spirit, your higher self, your Buddha, your I don't even know what all the names for God might be, but it's
Yeah.
whoever, whatever kind
Right.
of sets you free,
Yeah.
makes you feel comfortable, makes is your guidance, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I like that. And I can see that. Wasn't really thinking about it with baking and stuff, but it's that you're in that meditative state
But
and
gardening, like
actions
any
flow.
of your hobbies like that, that you really just zone out and you just feel great when you're doing whatever that thing is.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's very, there's probably so many different things. If every one of us thought about what makes us tick, what makes us happiest,
Hmm.
then that's where your zone is,
Well, and
right?
yeah, and there is a phrase, and I think it's a religious oriented phrase, but it's also a spiritual phrase where you're asking God to work through you. And so you're releasing yourself to that source. That is actively channeling, so it's pretty interesting. So when we talk about it in the metaphysical sense, um, you could say that there's two types of channeling, or two umbrellas of channeling. One is trans channeling.
I had a piece of something on my lip. Sorry.
And I was like, sometimes I get cat hairs, like, and
Yeah.
like in the corner of my eyes and stuff. You're sitting there talking with someone going, ah, ah. Anyway. Um, so the trans channeling is that's unconscious. There's unconscious and conscious channeling.
Okay.
Unconscious channeling is like the trans channeling where you're literally your consciousness steps back from your body and you are allowing another entity, another source, another energy, whatever you want to call it, to step in and speak through your body. And you can go to the point of releasing, if you trust them, to releasing your body's controls to them so that they can walk around. And I've seen this before with someone, and it's interesting because their eyes are closed, and yet they know exactly where to walk, what to do. It's so crazy. So that's one kind of channeling. Then the other, which is more common is the conscious channeling. And it's interesting because I kind of wonder, no, because you're in your body. So I guess all the channeling we just talked about would all be conscious channeling. Um, except, like, if you're writing a book, you're asking to be in the zone, but you're not sitting there thinking, I'm asking for this information. You're thinking you're coming up from your imagination and stuff, but it's actually coming up from a
Yeah.
greater area. Okay, so with conscious channeling, there's all kinds of different kinds of conscious channeling examples in the metaphysical world. So y'all would most probably be familiar with like psychic and mediumship,
Yeah.
um, which is using the clairs, if anybody's heard of those, like clairaudience, clairsentience, clairgustance,
Voyance.
clairvoyance, yeah, all of those. But then I didn't really think about it, but auto writing, that's also channeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think that you could probably do that as a trance channel and just let your hands go because you and allow something else to take over your body. So I think that can go under unconscious
Both
channeling.
umbrellas.
Hmm.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
could fall under both.
Yeah. Because for me, it's like people, they say, well, you don't know what you're writing. Well, I'm not really looking at what I'm writing, but the information is coming down and I'm writing down what's coming through.
And
It's,
what's really interesting, one of my friends does the automatic writing, and she said she writes it and then sets it aside for a while, and then later on goes back and reads it. And she said, what's really kind of crazy
mhm.
is that she's using words that she wouldn't use. Like the beginning of what she writes down is Dear One, you need to, or I would like you to know about, or blah, 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 blah. And she's like, I've never called anybody dear one in my whole life. Right. Cause it's just not a natural, way she speaks. So she knows that that's something else going through her and writing it down. So I thought that was kind of cool.
I really, really like that. I haven't, okay, so the most consistent I've had with that is you mentioned the benevolent beings, which I refer to as BB, and those are higher dimensional beings that are channeling through me. And this is when I'm as close to unconscious channeling as I have come to so far,
Uh-huh.
where I sit back and I'm aware of what they're saying. And I'm kind of going, oh my God, don't say that. And they say it, it's like a very weird kind of thing where I'm aware. Um, but they're using my vocabulary um, and explaining things through my thought forms. But some of the stuff they say is not how I would address someone. It's not the
Uh-huh.
way in which I would phrase things necessarily, but they're using my vocabulary, but not always the patterns in which I would speak or the word choices that I would make. So
Yeah. It's
that's kind of,
interesting.
yeah, so that's the same thing
Uh,
as that dear one. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just a very kind
Well,
of,
and the beginning of all of this for me was Abraham-Hicks and Esther Hicks, and which is a channeled being, whatever.
mhm,
And it's really interesting because I went to see her live, and she was speaking to the audience, "Hi, everybody," blah blah blah, and then she closes her eyes, and that's when Abraham comes through,
mhm,
and the tone of voice changed,
yeah.
and the cadence changed,
Oh, so
and
rapid. I
the
mean, that.
word yeah, so it's really funny, so it's her, and it's her voice, but it's not the way she would normally speak, so and to have that, like, with you, I know how you normally speak, and then when BB is there, there's a slight difference, I can tell the difference. Not everybody could, if they didn't know you as well as I do, probably, I don't know.
But it's such a more serious way. Like I lighten people up, I joke around, I give lots of examples,
Yeah,
whereas
there's not much joking that comes through, it's like, "Let me tell you what you need to know, let's get through to this."
yeah, and I don't think it's not that they don't have a sense of humor. I don't think. I think it's just that they're down to business. It's like, I'm here for a purpose,
Yeah,
so let's discuss.
get this
Uh,
done. Yeah.
but yeah, so y'all have probably, our audience has probably heard us talk about Esther Hicks, so many times. And that was the one thing that I wanted to do when we were on the ship at the Esther Hicks cruise. I was trying to look as closely as possible to see whether her eyes were open or not, because she's walking around, she's talking to the person, her eyes are open, but I think she's conscious channeling.
I think so too. And so the very first experience that I had was I went to Connecticut and it was in like one of those hotel conference room kind of things. And
Mhm.
maybe there were 150 of us there, maybe even only 100.
I know
But
it's
I was
small
in the
groups.
front row.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like in the front row and watching the expressions on her face were a little bit different, but her eyes were open
Hmm.
while she was talking.
And
And
Abraham does have a good sense of humor.
oh, yes, definitely. Probably more of a sense of humor than she has even.
Hmm. But here's where, like, when people are channeling, and again, now we're talking about metaphysical sense of channeling. It's interesting because the flow of information is so rapid fire. I mean, it's like they might pause to gather their thoughts, but then it's like all on. It's not like if I'm doing a reading, I'll stop, I'll, wait for the information to come through, and then I will look at the person and translate it and so forth. So it's a very different kind of feeling, um, as compared to that kind of rapid fire. Like there's no way Esther could keep up with the information that she's pulling through for her, for the client, for the person sitting there. And yet it just comes through so fast.
Well, and the really funny thing too is that so she'll have she calls it the hot seat,
Mhm.
where people will sit and they'll ask a question or whatever, and Abraham answers that, but the answers that come in are for the greater good, for the whole group that's there,
Yeah.
not necessarily just the person who is in the hot seat asking it. It's really interesting.
Yeah, they're just kind of like the points of light that have accumulated, the mass of people's energy of what needs to be asked. And
Right,
and
right.
so they're the representative for that question. Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is that, like everybody will put their hand up, and she makes a joke that it's like whack-a-mole. You sit down, you sit down, you sit down. But somehow Abraham knows which person and what question that person's going to ask to call up to be in the hot seat. So
Mhm.
everybody with the whack-a-mole thinks, oh, I want to be up there. I want them to answer my question. But that may not be the information that needs to be brought forth at that time.
Exactly. I love that. Yep. And that's exactly how it works. So if you've ever experienced, you have watched some Bashar, right?
Yes, not a lot, but some.
Okay, so Bashar is
On
channeled through Daryl Anka, and you can catch clips of his on YouTube. And
Well, I'm making a little list of us so that maybe we can do some links
okay,
or at least have it in the description for the Esther Hicks on YouTube and also the Bashar and
okay,
anybody else you decide to talk about in a minute.
thank you.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of
because we
people
never.
that go on there and share their channeling experiences,
Mhm.
and it's really interesting.
Yep. So the reason why I point out Bashar is because he's like rapid fire, and you can just keep asking questions, and he'll just like gather it together and boom, 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 boom. And it's kind of like there's no stupid questions, but if you ask a question like trying to trick him, or you're not getting the point, like Bashar will just kind of nail you. Like you have to, if you're stepping up, you better be brave and ready. Like I don't know how it's like, it can be a challenge, but he does it in good humor, but he doesn't suffer fools, I think.
Right.
It's
Yeah, I
a
think so too.
Yeah. So it's a more brusque point of view, but I really like it nonetheless
Yeah,
because he gets to the point.
me too. All
Um,
right, so let's go back to the clairs.
okay.
Explain each of the clairaudience, clairvoyance, like what is that? And
Okay.
so one of the reasons I wanted to talk about all of this is that each person kind of has a propensity toward some aspect of this, some facet of it. Some
Mhm.
and the reason I say that is these friends of mine, one of them is what's the one where you see things like you see colors and
Clairvoyance.
aura and
Yeah.
clairvoyance. And then another one is clairaudient, they hear things.
Mhm.
And what are the other clairs?
So clairvoyance is where you're seeing things, and it could be that you're seeing them literally, like, energy forms and that kind of stuff. Or it can be where, like, for me, I see a void. I mean, I see that, but I'll look up towards my right side and I see this void. So you could say it's darkness, but it's not. It's just a void. And I'll see representations of things there.
Okay,
And then it's up to me to filter through what that is that I'm seeing.
got
Um,
it.
so like if I'm doing body scan, and I'm looking at the person, but I'm actually focused on this information over here. It's really weird. So it's like an overlay and I can see where things are blocked.
That's
Um,
interesting.
So there's different, I think you could probably break it down to different kinds of clairvoyance even, but I've never seen anyone actually break that down. And then the clairaudience is, like you can so this is what I was saying, where there's suddenly a thought that's not your own. I think that that's clairaudience, as well as suddenly hearing a voice, which Diana got to experience that not too long ago, finally.
So
Yay.
freaky. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. And it's just, and whether it's a masculine or a feminine voice, like it is a distinct voice, and you're just going, whoa. And it's not going to be necessarily earth-shattering information, but it is just suddenly there, and you're like, wow. Um, I love that. I absolutely love it. Okay, so clairsentience is like knowing. And that's like when you get the downloads of information and you're just kind of like, oh, it's this. Like you'll say,
Uh-huh.
my people are telling me this. And
And I always say, what do you people say about whatever
yeah,
question I might have?
and that's not a voice that I'm hearing, or like a
Just a knowing.
conversation. It's all of a sudden a download of information that I go, okay, well, they're saying this, and then I explain a whole concept
Right, right.
instead of little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
um then we said there's clairgustance, which is a little bit more rare, but that's where you taste, like, even though there's nothing around you, you have this sense of taste that translates into something, into information.
Okay, I
Uh,
don't want that one.
yeah.
I'm not available for clairgustiance.
Uh-huh. Um, what's the other one? I know I'm missing one.
Oh,
Clairvoyant.
what's the one where you feel like the goosebumps on your arms and that kind of, is that a clair?
It is, but I'm trying to remember. Oh geez, that just went out of my head completely.
Because I'm
Um,
thinking of your senses. So sight, oh, smell. That might be
I
the
think
gustians.
smell is part of the clairgustance.
Yeah. Okay. So sight, smell, hearing, ta taste, and touch.
Yeah. Touch is psychometry,
Okay.
where you touch something, and you get a feeling of, so I guess it's also, so I'm wondering, and I could be incorrect about this, but like you were describing earlier about how your energy, you were having Reiki done, and most people, she was saying, energy is closer to their body, where yours was way up here. And as I do that, I can feel literally like I understand what she was feeling, because my hands immediately want to go up and I can feel a pressure. So that's touch, and that, but psychometry is technically, the way you see it is, you hold jewelry in your hand
And
and you
then you'll get
suddenly
a
know about that person.
right, right, a
Um,
knowing of some sort. Well, the funny thing is about that whole Reiki, for those of you that don't know anything about Reiki, I didn't know anything about Reiki. I just knew that it was energy healing. And so I've been getting Reiki done or whatever, but right before she said she felt the energy up here, I said, "Okay, I got to bring it in. I got to settle myself down because I'm so excited today." And that happens to me quite frequently, Samantha. Like for some reason, I just I got to bring it in.
Um, well, and so that right there, like, that's being aware of the energy around you. So what would you call that? Like there's so much to all of that awareness. But again, when we go back to channeling, um, like I've described myself as an energy channeler in the sense that everything's energy.
Well,
Everything's
yeah,
energy.
and then so going back to me, the science where my master's was from, so protons, electrons, when you talk about atoms, everything is energy. And
Hmm.
so we're not used to thinking of it in terms of that, but it's really interesting, I think.
Hmm.
And then all of these things, so I was describing, I don't remember which one, what podcast we were doing, but that I used to get ideas in the shower. Oh, it was grounding. It was
Grounding.
the podcast about grounding.
Hmm.
But that is some kind of channeling that's coming into my
Yeah.
brain, solving a problem or giving me an idea or whatever. And we describe it as imagination or a feeling or
Hmm.
a knowing. But all of that is channeling.
Yep, you're channeling information. Information is coming through a channel, some source, and it's coming through like ones and zeros or whatever. I mean, the information's coming through in packets, and the way you open to it naturally, it can be so many different things that just, some people can be working in the dirt and suddenly have a knowingness, it's like there's different ways that we attune to it.
Well, and one of the things we talk about us being Aries or whatever, but Aries are doers. Like we do stuff, we get shit done. Other people do too.
Yeah.
But like I'm driven to
Hmm.
get shit done. And if you need something done, tell me and I will get it done. But in the process of getting shit done,
Hmm.
you don't allow yourself to stop, slow down, and take in
Yeah.
all of this information. So that's what I'm really working on. And it does not come naturally to me. It's making me crazy sometimes. Like I want to meditate, I want to slow down, but I got to get shit done. So I'm reminding myself, you can get shit done later. Just chill for a minute.
Well, you've heard the expression slow down to go fast.
Yeah,
That's,
exactly.
and Eckhart Tolle, he has really pushed the concept of slowing down, being
Mhm.
present, being in the now.
And
It's
that's that whole mindfulness thing. And, we would all
Yep.
benefit from taking the time to be mindful.
Hmm. Yep. So
Give
when
yourself the time because you matter.
Yes, exactly. So when you sit there and say, wow, I want to channel, you are channeling. There are
Hmm.
different ways in which you're doing it now. Do you want to do it in the metaphysical sense, or I'm saying metaphysical, um, but it's part of spirituality. It's part of the essence of who you are. So do
Yeah.
you want to train and be more focused on it so that that information's coming down and you're able to to have it come down more at will and actively be able to use the information?
Well,
That would
and
be the
and
difference.
so when you were talking about the clairaudient, when I heard something, I was asleep and
Hmm.
I woke up and I heard a male voice say, "We go to Paris." Was I thinking about Paris? Was I dreaming about Paris? I don't know where that even came from, but it came out of nowhere. I mean, I've
Uh-huh.
always wanted to go to Paris, but it was clear like a man was saying, "We go to Paris." And I was like, who's here? Nobody was here.
And the
But
way
I
they
think it
say
was
it.
because I was in that, like half awake, half
Hmm.
asleep, I was relaxed and I was open, and that's when it came through. And so I keep trying to hear, when are we going to Paris? How are we going to Paris? Who is we? What are we going to do? All of that, none of that has come to me yet. But having that experience makes me realize that I could have it again, that it is there somewhere, and
Hmm.
maybe it's not necessary for me to know any of that stuff yet.
Well, it's just kind of encouraging you to take the steps forward to make that manifest. but who knows? I've noticed that the voices that are outside your head like that, because I've had it happen a couple of times now. I mean, one happened 30 years ago, and it hasn't happened since, and then it happened again over the past couple of times over the past year. And but they're not like how somebody would normally talk. It's like
Yeah,
it took all of that energy to do that voice, to
yeah,
do that
yeah.
outside of your, within your hearing range, but to get that through. And so it's just kind of it's not how somebody would normally talk. It's getting the main bits of the information across to you. It's usually short.
Yeah,
It's a very
yeah.
strange thing.
It is strange. It's
Yeah.
interesting. It's so fucking interesting.
So
It's
fun.
interesting.
Um, okay, so what I wanted to, I think that we've given a good idea what this is all about. Um, and I would love nothing more than to, well, I want to do what you said. And down in the bottom in the description, put some links in to different channelers you could go listen to in the metaphysical sense of channeling. I'm going to, we'll list um, Abraham.
Players.
Uh-huh. Well, no, I'm saying we'll list Abraham, we'll
Oh,
list
I
Bashar.
wrote Bashar, Abraham, who else?
Add Palm and Lotus on there. Will
Okay.
Smith, Will Brown. Wow, that was weird.
I know.
You
We've
know,
been talking about Did He Do It? So if you don't watch me on Instagram and Facebook about Did He Do It, Will Smith's all up in there, but Bill
he's a
Brown
less
is
person, I think.
on
Yeah, totally
notice.
different. So we'll put the link to that too because he's a local individual who that I partner with on and he and his wife on Out on a Limb podcast, which is the metaphysical podcast. And he does a monthly channeling that is free to anybody who wants to go listen to it. You can ask questions and stuff like that. So
Now,
that'll
who
give
does
you.
he channel? So that's a cool question.
Hmm,
Like, how, and you might not even know the answer to this, but you have BB, you have your benevolent beings, you have your, group that you channel,
hmm.
and then he has the council, right? Or something. How is that determined, like who comes through and who they are and where they are and what they are and all that kind of stuff? Do you have any idea?
Well, his is referred to as the collective,
Collective.
and his wife Allison is the one that generally asks the questions. And so she's able to kind of determine who's coming. She always asks, like if she notices the voice change, who is this?
Uh-huh.
Enoch, Enoch is the main individual, which is connected to, I think I'm saying this right. He's connected to the energy of Jesus, but I could be wrong. Like I get so confused with this stuff. But he channels Enoch, but then again, he also channels pets and he channels people's higher self. So his voice, the inflection and stuff will change depending on who he's channeling. Um, and he's doing it as an unconscious channel. He's trans channeling.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and the names come around because generally it's they're like ignore, the names are not important. Even spirit guides just say, we don't care what you call us because they have energy signatures. So they don't go by the names. We require the names for the
Well,
intention.
and for us, it gives us something to attach it to, I
Yeah,
think. And the fact that it's
exactly.
each thing is different. I
Hmm.
don't know. We're just used to our mom calling our name and us yelling at our kids to come in and eat dinner or
Yeah.
whatever. So
It's
that's a whole human thing that is unnecessary
Yeah, they're not interested.
beyond it.
But I said, so who are you guys? And they said, well, we're benevolent beings. That's who they are. And so I was like, well, that's a mouthful, and they weren't intending for that to be the name, but I wanted to refer to them as something when I say to people, I'm channeling these metaphysical or these multidimensional beings. And so I said, is it okay if I just call you BB? And that made a lot of sense because the main individual is a feminine energy.
Yeah.
So that worked. Yeah.
And Bashar is a male energy.
Hmm.
And many times, I think Bashar part of a group also, or is it just
Well,
one
no, see, okay, so
whole
Bashar is a totally
thing?
different case because okay, what Daryl Anka is connecting to, if I get this right, is an actual individual who exists in our future as us, as what we are evolving into. And so he is, while he's channeling him, he's also, I'm trying to remember the word for it. It's almost like, it's almost like remote viewing. It's this connection of his future self that's connecting to him at this time to provide information to help us level up.
Okay.
So that's a specific actual individual, like and like I'm connected to these multidimensional beings, but that it is a specific Pleiadian female that is the main source for me.
Okay.
And then the rest are kind of support staff. If you want to call
That's a
an
cool name to
archangel a
get.
support staff.
Yeah.
And then with with Abraham, so Esther is connected to Abraham, and Abraham is a collective of beings with a mainly male sounding representative, but it's a collection, and we don't know if it's a
Got it.
collection of
Well,
male.
and one of the cool things about Abraham-Hicks Hicks is, and this kind of goes back to you talking about artistic writing, whatever. There are several books that we can also link that were channeled through Abraham,
Hmm.
and they give just pieces of cool information and that kind of thing. So that kind of goes with that. If
Hmm.
you're a writer because you have this great imagination, but that great imagination is being channeled probably from somewhere, something,
Yeah,
someone,
yeah.
or whatever. So it's just really interesting. It's all really
Mhm.
interesting, I think.
Well, and I think that there are some people, some writers who they're writing from their experiences. Like, this is
Mhm.
Joe who is on the beat and, the typical crime novel kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then there's, people who are doing biographies and stuff, but it's the people who are doing like J.R.R. Tolkien. You know,
Uh-huh.
that's a channeled piece of work. That's
Yeah,
pulling from it. It's pulling from common lore, but
yeah.
it's going above and beyond. But it's
Right,
still
right.
taking human nature into account, but it's a flow. That's more a flow of information. So it all just depends.
Well, I love Taylor Swift, and I am convinced that Taylor channels her songs because she always talks about how she gets it in the middle of the night. Like she'll
Hmm.
wake up and she'll take her phone and she'll
Hmm.
hum the tune or say the lyrics or whatever.
Yep.
It's coming to her.
Yeah. Well, and they're based off of a lot of it's based off of her. It's in her realm of what she's experiencing, but it's how it comes through. It's how it layers it
Yeah, and
creates
connects and all
itself.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 It's very cool. I love this
I
stuff.
know.
Ah,
Totally.
so I want to mention that in January, I'm going to be offering Zen Tarot, which is the way I describe it. It's learning how to develop that love language between you and your guides. So that is learning in essence. It's developing your intuitive skills, and that is channeling. So
Uh-huh.
there's that experience if you're interested in doing that, and I'll be putting out information on it. Um,
I'm
so
excited about it.
so
I'm
you
so
gotta look
excited.
out for that.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to add to all of it?
Do you wanna talk about the other thing that's coming up in November
The
with
group
the
coaching or the
yeah, the free,
okay.
group coaching
Yeah.
and
So,
playground?
yep. So we're gonna
I think of
start.
it as a playground.
Yeah. Um, okay, I've been wanting to do this group coaching concept for a while now because there's so many people who reach out to me individually saying, I just have this question. I just want to know this. And there's all kinds of other people that want to know this stuff. And so we're going to do it once a week. Right now, I'm thinking Tuesday nights. I'm hoping, I'm not sure Tuesday, Wednesday nights. I was thinking maybe doing it lunch. It's just like there's so many different times I could pick. And I just got to do it. And I might move it around a little bit to see what's most convenient to the majority of people that are coming through. And it's going to be live Zoom sessions. You need to be a member of the KISS, um, Keep It Simple, Facebook group.
Yeah.
So you've got to join that in order to be a part of it, to get the notifications that, and I'm going to announce it on Facebook, but you still have to be a member in order to come over and do it. Um, and so those will be like anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half sessions where I may be introducing a concept. It might just be office hours. Hey, bring your questions, but more than likely it'll be, introducing a concept, trying a different technique, to work through certain emotional blockages or whatever, sharing concepts. So anyway, I will announce that, when we start to do that. That's in November, which this will be released in November. So it'll be coming
Soon, very soon.
out very
Coming
soon.
soon to a theater near you, to a computer
Mhm.
screen near you.
And also there in expressing that I wanted to do that, I've had a lot of people say, well, are you going to do more of the metaphysical stuff? And I'm like, well, sure, we can do that. So, I'm talking about a play group also, like just to kind of try different clairs and experience, what it's like to do psychometry or, or whatever, any different kinds of intuitive development. So that'll also, I think I might be doing that on Saturday mornings or midday is where I'm leaning towards right now. But however this is done, just remember all of this is going to be free. And then, I always describe it as an energy exchange. Um, if you like it, if you're having fun, if you're getting something out of it, there'll be a place where, yes, if you would like to do an offering, a financial offering, that would certainly be nice. So I always refer to those. I don't like the love offering. For some reason, that drives me crazy.
Me
So energy
neither.
exchange.
I think like appreciative, it's like a tip jar,
Yeah, but
sort of.
just seems weird.
Donation. What everybody has to remember is what we're doing here is free coaching. It's free fun, whatever. We're not
Mhm,
making any money off of any of that. But if you appreciate it and you feel drawn to donate, let's do that.
mhm. Or purchase any of the products that we suggest that we know
Yeah.
are making a big difference in our life. And that is our sponsorship. Yes,
Here's
Moringa,
Moringa Lab. Look
um,
for the stuff.
which
Whatever.
is down in that link is always in the description of our YouTube podcast or YouTube.
Cool.
Yeah. Um,
Thank
anything else?
I think that's it. I think this has been really good. Probably went a little longer than we normally do, but that's okay.
Well, so
It
if you
was
guys want to hear,
necessary.
yeah, if you guys want to hear more about the metaphysical and that kind of stuff, just let us know. In general, we stay more towards the spiritual life coaching kind of stuff, just how to get through the day, feel better, move yourself along, greater awareness, that kind of a thing. But we're happy to jump into a little bit more of the woo-woo here and there if we get a calling for it.
All right. Well, I guess we will see you next time.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye.